Russian Federation President Vladimir Putin, the ever-stoic Vladimir Putin, continues to quietly conduct the business of the Russian people while managing a hybrid war on his massive western border. His teenage-like Western counterparts constantly stay in the media, banging their aluminum trash can lids, making empty threats, and demonizing Vladimir Putin. NATO has literally become more of a media-driven organization than a military alliance. The Ukrainian proxy war. This war is a brutal and very destructive conflict. People continue to say Russia cannot even beat Ukraine. How could they handle NATO? Russia is fighting NATO resources with Ukrainian bodies and winning. Not only has Russia destroyed 2 full Ukrainian armies, tens of thousands of paid mercenaries from around the world have also met their maker in Ukraine. This war, being funded by the entirety of NATO and 20 other nations, is truly an economic, political, and military hybrid war. Not only are hundreds of billions of dollars, euros, being pissed away on maintaining the losses of the Ukrainian armed forces, billions more are being pissed away on funding the daily operation of the Ukrainian dictatorship and global Russophobia media coverage. The human costs, civilian and military, in this war is probably more than we know, and is mostly likely approaching 450,000 total for Ukraine and Russia combined. The mirage called NATO. NATO is simply the eastern extension of the United States military. The supposed heavy hitters in NATO outside of the US and Turkey each possess 0-250 main battle tanks, 0-500 artillery MLRS systems, 0-200 fighter jets, very little anti-aircraft systems, and 0-30 capital nave ships, carriers, frigates, submarines. Only the UK and France possess nuclear weapons. We are starting to clearly see that even the mighty US does not have the weapons production capacity to fight a real peer competitor. NATO now has 31 members with different weaponry, ammunition, communication systems, and speaks several different languages. The strength of this supposed rock-solid military alliance will be its Achilles heel if it ever faced a real military like the Russian armed forces. U.S. military reputation after World War II. Since 1945, the U.S. has never faced an opponent with true combined arms capability. North Korea, North Vietnam, Grenada, Panama, Iraq, Bosnia, Serbia, Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya, and Syria is what the U.S. military has built its lofty reputation on over the past 77 years. Many of these nations which the U.S. invaded, like North Korea with Chinese help, North Vietnam with Soviet help, and Afghanistan, fought extremely hard for their homeland. But it took these countries literally being destroyed and millions of their people being killed before the U.S. military finally wandered away to another war 3 to 20 years later. The economic power of the U.S. makes it impossible for these small developing nations to stand up to the gargantuan U.S. war machine. Russia is a true combined arms military, and the Pentagon knows it. The U.S. deep state will never allow U.S. armed forces to directly engage the forces of the Russian Federation. The U.S. and NATO gleefully intervened in the domestic conflicts in Bosnia, Serbia, and Libya, but will not enter in the Ukrainian conflict. Why? Because they are faced with a real military force, they're scared. Criticism of Putin and his general staff. People who ask why Putin refuses to get this over with cannot understand the big picture. Russia has been surrounded by hostile military forces for years. Before Putin moved into any country outside of his borders, NATO was already expanding in 1999. Putin cannot commit the bulk of his military into Ukraine with the gangsters of NATO hanging around his Baltic and Far East borders. Putin is patiently draining NATO dry. They are already looking for a way out without having egg on their face. I'll have my popcorn.